Greetings, greetings, greetings. It is I, King Clifford Jefferson, of Senator Godfrey, the fifth Carnarvon Jew, the son of folk, the ruler of Jerusalem. I'm the reincarnation of King Edgar the Peaceful, the one you see behind me on, to you would be my right, who was known to us here at the Third Tip English Church of England as Jesus Christ, or the Vicar of Christ, or Melchizedek, better known as the King of Righteousness. It is November 11th, parts of November 8th, 2024, which is equivalent to the birth year 2974. I greet you in the name of my Queen, Sister Godwinson from the House of Godwinson. I greet you in the name of my Archbishop Belmont from the House of Belmont. I greet you in the name of the members, heirs of the Third Tip English Church of England. I greet you in the name of the martyrs, the saints, all those who died, who gave up their life for the preservation of the reformation of the English Church of England, now known as the Third Tip English Church of England. Greetings to Countess Cersei. Thank you for showing up this morning, as well as for your ability to be able to moderate for us. This is a beautiful class I have prepared for you today, part 2 of the 13th and 14th Amendment. Is our choice to be free or slaves. And with always, I have a narrative that I always like to follow, and I'm going to pretty much draw off the gentlemen who were speaking in the last video, i.e. Brother Maurice Eld from the Consular Courts. when I show these videos and I break down these videos, it's not to belittle anybody or it's not to defame anybody. It's just to bring truth that a lot of us have no clue about what it is that we're talking about, especially when it comes to birthright or anything dealing with an inheritance. All right. We like to copy and paste. All right. We like to copy and paste or use something that has nothing to do with what it is that we are or declare upon its face. All right. So without further ado, I'm not going to be long winded. The proof is in the pudding. Once again, this is a civil study from uh, Louise L., as well as some other premier speakers, Taj Sharik, as well as a couple more. All right. And we're going to watch their video. We're going to watch their civic class because the Moorish Science of America is a religious and civic organization. All right. For established for the upliftment and following of humanity. How I know that I was actually the assistant grand sheik of the Moorish Science of America, Temple number 10 under Grand Sheik Lord Nietzsche El Bay, which recently did a video with the uh, Canaanite, Canaanite, Canaan parts of Canaan Moors. All right, under Cujo. All right, peace and blessings be to them all. The reason why I'm focusing on the more Central America because they are our brothers and sisters, just a little bit misguided as a result of neglecting the understanding of history and politics associated with some particular law of the land. All right, so this is the purpose and intent for me doing this video is to break down and clarify what it is that your group or your members or your societies are using, but has nothing to do with your the focal point or the primary activity or advocacy of your society. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. All right. Once again, I'm going to show the video. I'm going to break it down. We're going to talk about some things, some of the things we talked about yesterday. We're going to reiterate as well as going to some new things based upon the conversation they're having. And once again, we shouldn't borrow things that don't belong to us because uh, what is it? Title 8 of the United States Code, Section 911, Section 912, Section 913, Section 10, 15, all deals with impersonating of people, whether you're holding an office or not holding an office. You cannot claim to be a citizen and have a status as a citizen, but not place it on the public record. Okay, it's very important for you to comprehend that. All right, there must be some type of connection between your status as a citizen here in what we call now North America. Okay, so the clarity must be brought forth, and this is the reason why I'm here today. Uh, thank you all for watching the previous lecture. I never seen a boost in views in my whole time of being here as the king of the Third Tip English Church of England, as well as the number of thumbs up. So we appreciate you. I appreciate you. And once again, keep them coming. You know what I'm saying? Once again, we open invitations to all those who are activating as advocate groups for the people. We invite you to our platform to discuss sound evidentiary fact that can be used in regards to our flight to recover or discover whatever it is that we're trying to revert back or remand back to us that was inherited and preserved by our forefathers. So with that, let's get started with this marvelous lecture. The reason why I'm showing you this diagram because this is a real estate book of New Jersey. And why this is important because the topic that's going to be discussed by the Morris consuls as well as Taj Tariq is going to be about the power of wills and the power of trust and the power of achievement. Okay, I don't think none of them really have a clue about what that actually means. Okay, so here you have a diagram shown on the face of the screen, that shows the actions in lieu of what we call involuntary alienation. You have voluntary alienation and involuntary alienation. And voluntary alienation is by way of gift, grant, devise, etc. Contrast to involuntary alienation, which results from interstate, meaning that there are no heirs. Now you're going to hear this word thrown around loosely from the video of the Moors or the Moors consulars, and not really understand what it really means once we go back in detail and discover it for ourselves. Okay. So each and every one of you who's going to be viewing this class, it's best that you pay close attention as well as make your decision if you are being guided by wolves in sheep clothing or you'll be guided by the master. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. In lieu of some type of body of politics or political society that's called, i.e., your government, is usually based upon your corporate domicile, and the corporate domicile where you take a registry pretty much determines your citizenship, your status, as well as the ability to enforce taxes. All right, this is what we call feudal laws or feudal tenures on estates, or what we call, or what the more scientific America like to call, parcels of land. Okay, parcels of land. All right, so you see, when the heirs dies, that's called intestate. So that starts the action of escheatment. Escheatment is the power to take that which nobody owns or don't nobody know who's the owner of. All right. In this case, will be the state of New Jersey, who represents the whole United States, because the founding fathers, during their undertaking of their temporary weak government, actually took place because the Virginia plan and the Jersey plan. All right. And this had the ability to be able to take land for the public use without compensating, because who are you going to compensate if you ain't around? If the heirs die, okay? So the land is ceded to whatever state you're in within the United States, other 50 some odd states, and they took that land for public use, which is a result of what they call eminent domain power. Eminent domain power is what we call acquisition power. Acquisition power or compulsory power is the ability to take land without it being attested by somebody claiming to be the sovereign. In this case, it will either be the United States or your state's government. And then when that happens, then the land is subject to the public government agencies, which are the agencies which are what we call the stakeholders. Okay. And when that happens, then the property is taken and conveyed out and used for fee simple purposes. All right. And when the fee simple purposes that come with encumbrances, i.e., taxations, either from the encumbrances that from state regulations, what we call uh, mortgage, sewer, what else? It could be all types of taxes outside of the property tax that you pay. That's everyone's pays. All right, you don't pay those land taxes, then you can be foreclosed on. All right, and this is done by the sheriff's department, as we see here, and this is what we call open notorious adverse possession. All right, open notorious adverse possession by adverse what we call acquisition of sovereignty. Okay, acquisition of sovereignty. So this is pretty much the process that happens. Heirs die, it is streets to those who discover it or who conquered it, and they take it for themselves without just compensation because they claim they have the eminent domain power, which is called acquisition of sovereignty. Then they take that and use it for government purposes. All right, and then they create contracts with those who was rented out, which creates a contractual agreement between a landlord and a tenant. The tenant fails to live up to the management of the property, which is called waste of property, which we went over that yesterday, then the land is foreclosed on, all right, which is open and notorious and is given to somebody else who's able to fulfill the obligation of what we call the contractual agreement, which in its nature, until the fullest of extent, is unreasonable. Okay? I hope you all can comprehend that. If not, you're in a world of trouble. Okay? So the street power only results in interstate, which means that there are no heirs. When there's heirs, that means the estate. When there's heirs, that means that it belongs to the estate is in entail, and it transferred by what we call operation of law. All right. When there are no heirs, it's fee simple because now it's conveyed out under the eminent domain of the state or the county or the municipality because it's taken for public use. All right. This is what you call the public domain. All right, or what we call the public domain on the federal level, or what's it called? The public domain, or what's it called? The public trust. Something in those terms. I forgot the term. All right, so let's move forward. We're not gonna watch the whole class. Just part of it. Everybody pay close attention to the terminology that's being spoken in this class today, because we're going to stop it and go back and break down this information, because they're not going to break it down for you. Every reference that they make based upon the terms that they talk about, they're going to use the Black Law Dictionary, and that's not the proper origin of where the term or the word originated from. All right, it's not where it originated from. It originated from English common law. Okay, which originated for the English people, which according to the 1911 encyclopedia are the Anglo-Saxon Berbers, because they're the ones who created the body of politics based upon the English people, which is and what we call political science. Okay, we must comprehend that. So look at the language that they use, and we're going to break down the language, and we're going to see if it applies to them. Okay, or do it apply to us, the Third Temple English Church of England, and our citizens, okay, our subject. And we're going to use or qualify it not just by our understanding, but by statutory law, by the Constitution, by presidents, all right? You're not going to see none of that here, all right? And these are supposed to be the guidance of your nation, all right? I'm not saying they are not the guidance of their nation. We're talking about the guidance of this nation here in North America, i.e., we the people. Okay? Because in order to be one of the people, you must have or must be a citizen. You must have the status of a citizen. And that comes in two forms. Either you're a foreigner or you're a national. Okay? And based upon what we talked about yesterday, nationals have to be applied based upon the concept of citizenship as stated in by the Supreme Court in the United States versus Ron Kim Art, based upon English common law. If you're not a national, then you have to use some other law, which is the law based upon what we call naturalization. Okay? If you don't use those two, then that means that you are a stateless person. So without further ado, let's get started.
All right. Welcome you all to another Sunday Civics class. And we have a special guest with us tonight, Grand Sheik, Prime Minister Taj Tariq Bey, my brother, my spiritual father, my teacher, as well as you all's teacher as well. I'm sure that you all are very aware that he has kept the Moorish honors and his illustrious history alive, while others were, some for the most part, taken into to its grave, and or just being kept within certain organizations but not known to the public. So we all, I know I do, and I speak on behalf of a lot of you all when I say that we owe him much honors and respect for the great missionary work that our Grand Sheik and Prime Minister Taj Tariq Bey has done for the Moorish community, as well as the nations of the planet, because they're learning from him too. So much love. And we're going to get started tonight with the Moorish American prayer. Brother R. Campbell is going to lead us.
Islam, and happy Sunday meeting to everybody. And to everything Moorish and all Moors around the world. If you can, please stand with your feet.
Did somebody
at a
just break
45
wind?
degree angle.
All right, let me just move forward.
Elbows at
It
a
sounds like
90
somebody
degree
just
angle,
broke some wind.
with your finger spread
All right.
5 on the left.
Now just, give
2
respect.
on
Let
the
them
right,
go out with their daily prayer.
to create the
All
proper
right.
tuning fork. Allah, Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice.
Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector,
My guide,
my guide,
and my salvation.
and my salvation.
By night and by day,
By night and by day,
through his holy prophet, Drew Ali.
through his holy prophet Ali.
Ameen. Islam.
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 Yeah.
Islam.
Real quick, Council General, I want to apologize for last meeting, and today I was with my family after transition. We're going through a transitioning with my sister this past
We're gonna move
weekend.
a little further
making
up in
arrangements,
the
so
video.
The temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out the divine lead to all more Shamir.
The man of lawlessness. And we
The will of Allah to redeem his people from their sin.
claiming himself to be God.
Actually, Saba culture.
All right, here we go.
The coming of the lawless one will be in accordance with how Satan works. He will use all sorts of displays of power through signs and wonders that serve the lie, and all the ways that wickedness deceives those who are perishing. They perish because they refuse to love the truth and so be saved. For this reason, God sends them a powerful delusion so that they will believe the lie, and so that all will be condemned who have not believed the truth but had delighted in wickedness. The man of lawlessness. All right. So a lot was said in that verse, in those verses, in chapter 2 of 2nd Thessalonians. And the reason why I wanted to speak on this topic for a civic class, because that verse is dealing with civics. It's actually the whole Bible dealing with civics, but specifically because Grand Sheikh Taj Tariq Bey, you put that verse, that chapter and verse in the this document right here. I'm going to pull it up. I don't want to just speak on it. I want you all to also see what I'm speaking about. I'm going to the website enforcetheconstitution.org, and I'm going to study materials for Moors, and I'm scrolling down to the PDF titled Consular Court Restoration and Juror Questionnaire. And one of the things that was mentioned in the Consular Court Restoration and Juror Questionnaire that was written by Grand Sheikh Taj Tariq Bey was 2nd Thessalonians chapter 2. And you actually put the verse in it. And this is the document right here. And if you don't mind, Grand Sheikh, expounding on, the reason of why you put that verse in the restoration of consular court and how it relates. And now I yield the floor.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, Islam, everyone. Now, keep in mind.
Before Taj Tariq address defining the question brought before the floor, let's just look up what it is that we're talking about in lieu of consular courts. Okay, because I'm pretty sure a lot of you don't know what that is.
So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all and your love.
1 second. I think I went too far.
Yes. Now, everyone, Islam, everyone.
All right, 1 second. Let's look up consular courts, everyone. So nobody will be in the dark about what a consular court is. Consular courts were law courts established by foreign powers and countries where they had extraterritorial rights. They were presided over by consular office. This is pretty much what we call an embassy. Okay? Pretty much like an embassy. All right? And if you have an embassy and you establish a consular court to deal with affairs on people who are subject to the protection of the extraterritorial rights in which you protect, that means that you must have some type of connection to what we call the Attorney General, okay, or what we call what they call the Ministers of Affairs on the United States level, because he has the foreign power to deal with foreign affairs on a consular level. So if you are in fact a consular court, then you must, especially in relative to you being or speaking on behalf of nationals here in what we call North America, then that means you must have the same status of diplomacy like any other diplomat, okay? Very important for you to understand that. If you don't, then you are misleading the people, okay? And now we're gonna watch Taj try to address the question in regard to the reformation or the reconstruction of consular courts, and he does not answer the question, okay? He does not answer the question.
Now, keep in mind that the Bible, which is the Heliotext, comes from actually Saba culture. And Saba culture is the basis of the Kabbalistic philosophies that you know now as Islam. And you know, most people, for lack of understanding, think that Islam is separate from the ancient Coptic, when actually it's simply a branch of the ancient Coptic knowledge and not separate. And you also recognize that on your nationality card, Noble Drali gives honor to all the divine prophets, meaning that the culture and the customs and the traditions all belong to us. And so they're not separate as many people try to make it. That's number one. And number two, keep in mind when the Romans took over in the Western Hemisphere under the Unum Sanctum Wars, that they separated the philosophies in order to separate the people. So don't look at it as separate to yourselves, but also recognize that he knows that that culture belongs to us, even though he claims it. Yield the floor.
The question was not answered in regards to the reconstruction of consular courts. That's what he asked them. Could you explain what you mean by the reconstructions of consular courts, which was established for diplomacy and foreign nations in regards to or speaking on behalf of their nationals, okay? We must understand that. And that was the question brought on the floor, but Taj Tariq did not answer it. Let's continue.
And so, getting back to the culture, and and the necessity of consular court, consular jurisdiction, and the interchange between nation to nation or country to country, or jurisdiction to jurisdiction that are foreign to each other. And so that taken with Second Thessalonians chapter 2, because we know that the communications between the two foreign jurisdictions that's dealing with diversity of citizenship would be a consular jurisdiction platform, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now the restoration of consular court, but then you reference Second Thessalonians chapter 2, the man of lawlessness. So in the midst of right now, we are experiencing, like you always refer, the all masks are off. So the masks are coming off.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And the lawless ones are being revealed. But in the midst of the lawless ones being revealed, it is in our best interest, which is what we're doing now, is to restore consular court. So how does the two relate as far as us restoring consular court while the lawless ones are being revealed? And what?
Okay, here go another question that he posed in regards to restoration of consular courts. And he's drawn that restoration from Second Thessalonians, which is the scripture from the Bible. Okay? And the scripture from the Bible that he's drawn for in lieu of the restoration of the consular courts has nothing to do with this land whatsoever. Okay? It has nothing to do with the Constitution whatsoever. Because if you're going to apply consular courts in regards to an issue involving diversity of citizenship under Article 3, Section 2 through 1 through 5, that means that Second Thessalonians has nothing to do with one's status in regards to you being a foreign national and have to have representation provided for you, being that you're in foreign territory. That's what consular courts and what we call embassies are for. Okay? So this has to do with foreign foreign, what's the term I want to use? Foreign relations. It all has to do with foreign relations. Okay? We must comprehend that. Let's get back to the question. All right, let's get back to the video. Now, mind you, a lot of us come to these platforms without the intentions of learning whatsoever. We just want to be a part of a group, a society. That's why these people have so many viewers, all right? Because they want to be a part of something, but they don't realize that what they're being a part of, they have not done the due process of understanding what makes them up that you're part of. Because you can mess around and be a part of the wrong thing. All right. So it's very important to do your homework about who it is that you claim to be a part of. I'm talking about on the citizen level, on the employee level, on a diplomatic level, on a economic level, where you have to make the distinction. All right. Let's continue.
What that, how that verse, merges with, the restoration of consular court.
Now, keep in mind that one of the fronts that they put on is to pretend that they're holding up the ancient principles and the makeup of the ancient principles, which are referred to as Constitution. However, they are actually opposite. And also, most of their work has been to overthrow it. And our work is to activate it. And with that activation, we're showing that we are among them, but we're separate from them. In other words, we're in it, in the world, but not of that world.
and the demonstration of the mother and that such slaves in the
I'm sorry, y'all.
roles.
That's to make it publicly known.
See, and
1 second, let me go back. And see how he dodged the question again? He never answered the question about the restoration of consular courts.
Almost defend that right, but also reason why you said stay sincere because
Let's go back.
in chapter 2, because we know that the communications between the two foreign jurisdictions that's dealing with diversity of citizenship would be a consular jurisdiction platform, right? So now the restoration of consular court, but then you reference 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, the man of lawlessness. So in the midst, so right now, we are experiencing, like you always refer, the all masks are off. So the masks are coming off. You know what I mean? And the lawless ones are being revealed. But in the midst of the lawless ones being revealed, it is in our best interest, which is what we're doing now, is to restore consular court. So how does the two relate as far as us restoring consular court while the lawless ones are being revealed, and what that, how that verse, you know, merges with you know, the restoration of consular court?
Now, keep in mind that one of the fronts that they put on is to pretend that they're holding up the ancient principles and the makeup of the ancient principles, which are referred to as Constitution. However, they are actually opposite. And also, most of their work has been to overthrow it. And our work is to activate it. And with that activation, we're showing that we are among them, but we're separate from them. In other words, we're in it, in the world, but not of that world.
And the demonstration, which I remember you telling me this before, like your activity is as far as your demonstration, even if, you know, what people would say, oh, I must have did it wrong, or it didn't work, but your very activity activates, what was it, you remember?
It's that energy. See, because you're throwing it into the ethers. In other words, your activity, even though you know they're not going to act right, your demonstration against the odds is demonstrating to both the world and to the ancestors and to the etheric world your sincerity. That's key.
Yes. And that is one of the things that you always told me that'll keep me safe is sincerity. And then I found it not a coincidence that when you were telling me that, and then I started reading the Mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood of the East, the first brotherhood test is sincerity. Is that the reason why you said stay sincere? Because that was the first test? Or
well, that's one of the tests, but that's really part of the culture. I mean, it's in your nature. And keep in mind, one of the things that they've always done is to encourage us not to live in harmony with our nature of justice. And this is why Jesus, like in the code, in the questionnaire, we say Jesus means justice. And so when we look at Jesus, we know that that's what it means.
Well, when we look at this reason why you said stay sincere, because that was the first test,
Well,
or
that's one of the tests, but that's really part of the culture. I mean, it's in your nature. And keep in mind, one of the things that they've always done is to encourage us not to live in harmony with our nature of justice. And this is why Jesus, like in the code, in the questionnaire, we say Jesus means justice. And so when we look at Jesus, we know that that's what it means.
Nothing concrete has been said since we've been watching this video.
when we
Nothing.
look at this right here, in addition to what you're saying, Grand Sheik,
Now we're getting somewhere.
it says the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. So the Jesus justice principle, and Jesus
Reign
being
with the people.
yes, the Jesus being the one that resurrected from the dead, if that was talking about a principle and not an actual man, then we would be the Jesus or the justice. And the power that we would be exercising that was not delegated to them upon investigation and challenge, if we demand from them proof of a delegation of authority order from Congress under Article 3, which deals with the judicial power, if that power is not delegated to them, then it is still reserved and vested in the people for us to be our own justice.
Okay. So he said he went past the First Amendment to the 10th Amendment. Okay. He went from the first, he bypassed all that and jumped to the 10th Amendment and talking about the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So if you don't establish your citizenship on the state level, how are you going to establish your citizenship on the federal level? Okay, because when we went through yesterday, the federal level established that citizenship should be determined by what we said, what? English common law. If you're one of the people, okay? Because the people delegated or passed on a little bit of their sovereignty. That's called what we call social contract or social compact. When you surrender some of your sovereignty to that delegated person that, according to the Holy Quran, is chapter 29. The one you raise to sovereign power, that will be the monarch, okay? And he will be the voice of the people because he represents the fusion of government, the legislative, the executive, and the judicial branch, okay? So the powers now delegated to the United States by the Constitution, that will be who? The executive branch, okay? The executive branch, because the executive branch do what? Execute what the legislative branch says, okay? And are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So if you're one of those people, then you must be a citizen. If you are a consular court and you are speaking on behalf of foreign nationals, then there's no way in hell that you can be one of the people, because your status as a citizen is based upon the status as a foreign national here in North America, claiming to be a national, but you can't be a national. Why? Because national involve your protection by the supreme law of the land, okay? You're not going by the supreme law of the land. You're going by laws that govern international relationships between foreign nationals who are protected by international law, especially if you're drawing from the Treaty of Paris, okay? We must comprehend intelligence from ignorance, all right? The powers not delegated to those who are acting in the capacity as fiduciary officers cannot be conveyed to them if they are not citizens. And citizenship is just a status. It is only two. Either you're a national of this country or you're a foreign allowed to be here by what we call permanent residence, all right? So even if you're a national and you carry a national ID in your pocket based upon your nationality, if that nationality is not supported by the laws of that land, then that nationality, no matter what you say on that ID, it still has the status of a foreign national. Okay? Because those who are citizens and are nationals are protected by operational law. There's no need for it to have an ID or a need for witnesses to prove your status because the common law of that land supports that alone. We must comprehend the game that's being played on us English nationals by everybody. I'm not just picking on those who are claiming to be representatives of the national, i.e., we the people. Okay? Because they don't say nothing in here about the Moorish American. Okay, we know we're not talking about the founding fathers because according to the Naturalization Act of 1790, they had nothing to do with just soil, or I mean just sanguineous, the blood. It had to do with the color of a skin. You were not included in that package there. You were included in the 14th Amendment, which allowed you citizenship as a result of your emancipation and from the 13th Amendment, which we went over yesterday. And it clearly states that citizenship in regards to or on a national level, it should be based upon or according to the English common law of England. If you're a foreign national, if you're an immigrant, then it must be determined by the laws governing those foreign nationals or immigrants who are simply aliens. Okay? They are called aliens. We must comprehend. We're going to prove it. Just hear a little bit more.
Right, Brother Todd?
Yes.
And it's evident right here in the 10th Amendment, and the 10th Amendment coincides with what chapter 3 in the Circle 7 says, as far as if you was to find your Savior, you must look within. His name is self. So the Savior is within, the justice has been within, and the right to exercise that justice power has been secured under the 10th Amendment this whole time, which means, you know, the ones that came before us that were marching and praying for foreigners to do something that we had the power to do our own self, you know, they pretty much wasted time. But also
wasted time.
like was revealed, they were the overseers to keep us in that passive state of obedience and to, you know, march, pray, and cry like children instead of taking our seats amongst the affairs of men and demonstrating the judicial power that's vested under Article 3 of the Constitution.
Stop. Let's stop there. So, Noble Ali, take your place in the affairs of men. The affairs of men is being a part of the body of politics that governs the affairs of men. So we have to understand if this is a government of men or a government made by the laws that were established by men. Okay? Because men are making laws outside of what the government say, then they are acting in their private capacity and not in their public capacity. Okay? We must understand that. So let's really talk about what it is that he's stating in regards to the delegated power that was given to those who represent the people. And especially when you're dealing with a nation, it must be not based upon international law or foreign law. It must be based upon the laws of the nation. Okay? Now he just said that you went from a state of servitude, i.e., colorless, fictitious, Negro, black, colored, and Ethiopian, to a state of freedom, which came through Emancipation Proclamation through the 14th Amendment. Okay? No matter outside of any idea of freedom that you had, because we or our generation was not born in that state of servitude as our prior ancestors were. All right. So pretty much we can't say that we were actually enslaved and bonded based upon physical slavery. We was in bonded or enslaved for what we call paper slavery. All right. On paper, they made you slavery. All right. That's what we should understand. And without that understanding, you always remain in a perpetual slavery, even without the chains. Okay? How we know that, let's talk about the 13th and 14th Amendment. Since you're talking about the 10th Amendment, let's go and visit the 13th and 14th Amendment. Because if they're talking about the 10th Amendment and they're talking about the powers reserved for the people, that cannot possibly be those who were emancipated by the 13th Amendment. If the power is reserved to the states respectively or the people, they cannot be talking about Negro, blacks, colored, or Ethiopians, or even Moorish Americans, or any other national from any foreign country. They are not talking about Jews because they have not even gotten to the 13th Amendment yet. Right now, you are in the state of bondage. Right? You didn't come about to the 14th Amendment. So whatever you talk about in 2024 has no standing in law. Like Council Cersei said. Well said, King. All nationals are not protected, what? Under the law. Yeah, we knew we had a nationality. What that nationality was, we had no idea of, because if we were nationals of this country, then we were protected in this country. We were not protected in this country because we didn't know our nationality at the time of the amendment of the 10th Amendment. Okay? But yet the power is reserved for the people. They ain't the people because in the 10th Amendment was created, they was going under the Naturalization Act of 1790, which had nothing to do with real people, based upon some genetic testing. We know Imre Ahmad Hassan established that there's two tests. The meaning of the Naturalization Act of 1790, not excluding the 14th Amendment, because they both have the same limitations based upon one status as what you call a citizen. It has only to do with an oath of allegiance. The same way it has to do with us as nationals. It depends upon your oath of allegiance to whatever the sovereign power is at that time. Okay? So the 13th Amendment is not even relevant right now because right now you're still enslaved. And we read that Dred Scott said that slavery was brought over what? By the British. Slavery was instituted by the British and it was incorporated into the colonies. Okay? We must understand what we're talking about. So Brother Maurice L. and Taj Tariq, the people which you're making reference to here in the 10th Amendment, they're not talking about Jews. Why? Because when they did came up with the idea of citizenship dealing with on the national level, because citizenship is just a status. You can either be a national or you can be a foreign national. You are in fact a foreign national over here in a nation that has the nation's laws that don't involve you. We are of this nation with the nation's laws to protect us because we are in fact national, because when you're dealing with citizenship in North America based upon the 14th Amendment as established by 1 Kim Art, all right, it says that it should be interpreted based upon English common law. All right, let's look at it. United States versus 1 Kim Art. Where is it at? I had it. There you go. I thought I had it up there. I must have erased it. We're talking about we the people. We the people. If you're we the people, you must be a citizen. Brother Maurice L. You are a consular court speaking on behalf of the diplomacy of people of a nation that's foreign to the laws here. Okay? If you go to the holdings of the case, all right? If you go to the holdings of the case, this says it all. This is the United States. This is not a state court holding. This is Supreme Court holding. So it governs the United States as well as state interpretation on citizenship. It said the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment must be interpreted in light of the English common law. So if you are emancipated or your people are emancipated by the 13th Amendment and then became citizens by the 14th Amendment, then the only way to truly prove that you are in fact a citizen is to prove that you fall under the citizenship as established under the English common law. They didn't use that interpretation for the Chinese because they were not English. They were foreign nationals just like you are foreign nationals, and they have to use other modes of interpretation, prejudice, based upon your status as what you call a citizen, and they are not synonymous. Okay? So citizenship, according to the Supreme Court, President says that citizenship must be interpreted in light of English common law. If you want to come here and talk about it, fine. I don't have a problem with it, but please come with some decor. All right? Don't get upset. Start throwing tantrums and things of that nature. You only have the right based upon what they call partus sequitur fiat, the status of the mother, which is called just soil. Being born on the soil does not make you a citizen. All right? You must understand that. Let's go to the actual court case to qualify that citizenship is determined by English common law. We read it yesterday. We talked about it yesterday in my last lecture. We got a hell of a views too as well. All right, we had a lot of views, so I'm so proud that the algorithm is starting to speed up. All right, so if you're talking about Article 3, Section 2, Article 3, Section 2, let's deal with it. All right, because this is the same argument that you're raising in regards to your diplomacy, your ability to have diplomatic diplomacy on behalf, you're acting in your official capacity on behalf of representing those who have foreign status here. All right, so let's read it. The question presented by the record is whether a child born in the United States of parents of Chinese descent who at the time of his birth are subjects of the Emperor of China, but have a permanent domicile or residence in the United States and are there carrying on business, i.e. employees, and are not employed in any diplomatic or official capacity under the Emperor of China. You're acting in a capacity as an employee of the Moroccan Empire or the Moorish Empire, whatever term you choose, in a diplomatic official capacity, all right? That makes you an employee of Morocco. But you didn't even establish citizenship here yet. So how could you be an employee representing people here? You haven't even established you're a citizen over there in Morocco. So how could you establish that you are acting in the diplomatic status in your official capacity when you have no instrument to establish that? Okay, very important. It says that the question presented by the record, i.e. the record, is whether a child born in the United States of parents Chinese or Moorish or whoever else that may concern, who at the time of birth are subjects to the emperor, who at the time of birth are subjects of the Emperor of China, but have a permanent domicile resident in the United States, and are there carrying on business and not employed in any diplomatic or official capacity under the Emperor of China, but becomes at the time of his birth a citizen of the United States by virtue of the first clause of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. All right? Very, very, very important that you comprehend that. All right? Let's go here. Right here. The Constitution nowhere defines the meaning of the words, and this word we're talking about is citizen, either by way of inclusion or by exclusion, except insofar as this is done by the affirmative declaration that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and is subject to the jurisdiction thereof and are citizens of the United States. And this adds another respect, it must be interpreted in the light of the common law, the principles and history of which were familiarly known to the framers of the Constitution. So based upon the Naturalization Act of 1790, they know they was not citizens under the common law of England. They knew that. That only pertains to English citizens. They were not English citizens. All right. Why? Because they broke away from the king. They broke away from the common law of England. All right. The language of the Constitution has been well said, cannot be understood without reference to the common law. So if you're talking about this Constitution, Brother Maurice L., which you were just talking about, we the people, then you must have some affiliation with the laws involving that Constitution, whether, as we see here, is the common law. All right? We must comprehend that. Chief Justice Waite, when constructed in behalf of the court, the various provisions of the 14th Amendment now in question said, the Constitution does not in any way say who should be a natural born citizen. You hear that? Resort must be had elsewhere to ascertain that. And he proceeded to resort to the common law as an aid to the constructive of this provision. So that means that there were two types of citizens. The natural born citizens, i.e. the natural foreign citizens, i.e. who became citizens by becoming a permanent resident, which is a form of naturalization, contrast to those who are citizens under the common law of England, which are nationals. Why? Because it's going to say it right here. Smith, Alabama, Mr. Justice Matthews delivered the judgment of the court, and he stated, there is no common law of the United States in the sense of a national customary law, distinct from the common law of England as adopted by the several states, each for itself, apply as its local law and subject to such alterations as may be provided by its own statute. There is, however, one clear exception to the statement that there is no national common law. The interpretation of the Constitution of the United States is necessarily influenced by the fact that its provisions are framed in the language of the English common law and are to be read in light of its history. Okay? So if that's the case, if you're saying you're a national here in North America and you have the right to a nationality here in what they call America, then you must understand the laws that were here prior to this land being called America. Because it wasn't called America, it was called England. Why? Because we're reading, it says the fundamental principles of the common law with regard to the English nationality was birthed within the allegiance, also called legality, obedience, faith, or the power of the king. The principle embraced all persons born within the king's allegiance and subject to his protection. Such allegiance and protections were mutual. You hear that? Were mutual and were not restricted to natural-born subjects and naturalized subjects, or to those who had taken an oath of allegiance, but were predicable of alien in amity so long as they were within the kingdom. Did you hear this, y'all? You're hearing it, but are you understanding it? Children born in England of such aliens were therefore natural-born subjects, but the children born within the rim of foreign ambassadors, consulars, or whoever term you choose, or the children of alien enemies born during or within their hostile occupation of part of the king's dominions were not natural born subjects because not born within the allegiance, the obedience, or the power, or as would be said at this date, within the jurisdiction of the king. You hear that? This is why chapter 29 is very important for you to be considered a citizen. Okay? You must comprehend these undisputable facts, which is clearly the brothers from the council don't understand. Let's go back to the civil discussion. Everybody give me a thumbs up if you like what you're hearing thus far.
We've been misled to believe that another body of people had the power to do something that we had to do for ourselves this whole time. And that is also an abandonment of your estate. which is the
Exactly.
abandonment of the seats of government that you're supposed to take over your estate when the power is not delegated to nobody else. Especially if the people that are supposed to be in government have shown themselves to be imposters. Then
This is why I said, excuse me for the interjection. This is why I said the enforcement of the law is the duty of the nationals and the citizens.
So are you a national and are you a citizen? Because you said you're representing those who are subject to your official capacity as a consular. All right. And you're speaking on behalf of consular courts. All right. Which has nothing to do with the courts of the government, because the courts of the government would be those considered what we call under the common law, and that will be that of the King's Bench. All right. We must comprehend that. So your connection to the body of politics of the English people cannot be what we call sound in law or mind. It's not a sound argument. Okay, let's continue.
It's the right and it's a duty. And I remember seeing a definition that connected right with duty. You can't have a right without a duty. A duty to first and foremost defend that right, but also a duty to execute that right. And the duty lies within the people and the citizens. And furthermore, because this is also what kept us blacked out of history, is right here. And I remember you told me, Brian Sheik, that the Constitution itself dealt with reversion. Because
reversion, he said reversion, y'all.
Which is we the people. And then we have the other party, which is the United States of America. And then it mentions right here the heirs to we the people. So this preamble in the Constitution serves as a trust. Right or wrong, Todd?
Yes.
And in this trust.
So he said the preamble of the Constitution. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provided for the common defense, promote general welfare, and secure the blessed liberty, ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. According to the Naturalization Act of 1790, you are not a citizen, so that's not your trust. If citizenship is determined by the English common law, that means that it's their trust. The persons under the United States, under the Naturalization Act, or any other act based upon some joint House resolution, some bill, or some legislative act, are simply acts based upon you acting as a trustee. Okay? And you ain't managing that right, because the beneficiaries to the trust are the heirs, and you're not an heir because you have not met or measured up to that of a citizen as they established as we the people, especially when you're talking about a reversionary or remandment right of an estate, i.e., parcel of land or an estate of land or feudal tenure of land, which means the same thing. All right? So you are putting your foot in your mouth when you start talking about terms that don't relate to your right as a citizen in regards to the obligation you got as a citizen in lieu of some type of state that is ceded to who? The person who don't have the right to have a state, which is what you call those trustees known as what you call United States of America or the state's government. All right? There are simply trustees. It's a trust established what you call a Sestuke trust, but it's not based upon some written instrument. It's based upon operation of law, and operation of law is only done in two ways. By way of what we call intel, all right, which we find in the statute, all right, concerning the reversionary or amendment right, which I'll show you in a second, or it could be done by demanding what you're talking about, that by making claims to something that you rightfully don't have a right to. Okay? It's very, very important. Let's see.
Powers was delegated and vested from one people to another so that those people that are in office of trust can preserve our estate while we went to sleep.
Mm-mm-mm.
Am I right?
He's not even sure,
Can you mind expounding on that?
and he's not going to even expound on it.
This music is in the background. Hold on.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead.
I was gonna say the reason why I thought you were gonna put us on hold. I was gonna say the reason why I'm asking for the elaboration on this because I've been speaking about how everybody like got to start a trust, which is true, but people still got the concept of going to them for the recognition. Like going to them like the IRS or one of those de facto agencies and corporations to get an EIN or some type of recognition of a trust that you start. You see what I'm saying? Or maybe through the 501c3 tax agreement, which is the Skull and Bones agreement, and or anything like that, as far as like recognition from them in order to start your trust when you, in fact, supposed to start the trust yourself. And
Hold on. I thought this was an inheritance. I thought this was supposed to be some inheritance that was left preserved for you when you woke up. Didn't you just say that when y'all went to sleep, that these trustees will be here to manage your estate when you woke up, so that you have the right of reversion remandment? You haven't established any grounds for any genuine material fact that somebody can attest to. It ain't even attested to you by the argument that you bring in. You have to understand that y'all are acting in a capacity that is not going to be recognized by any competent person.
supposed to be private. All they're doing is practicing. It's like, I yield.
Yes. Excuse me just for a minute because I keep having this music interference. Hold on.
Okay. So the preamble is dealing with trust and reversion in the trust. So when you look up the definition of reversion or estate in reversion, it talks about the grantor of the trust putting the estate or putting it in the hands of a trustee, and they're supposed to be the ones that hold the estate. Let me, instead of me trying to explain it, let me.
He ain't even sure.
To the definition.
He gonna go to Black Law Dictionary. I'm not gonna go to Black Law Dictionary. I'm gonna take you to the real estate book.
Okay. I'll mute the brother.
Now we talked about Quo Warranto. The companion of Quo Warranto is what we call Quintipatoris, which was passed by who? The Plantagenet King Edward I. Quo Warranto is the order to show cause. All right? They're trying to use these prerogatives that belong to the king. You are no king. All right? You are not a king.
Taj, so that he can get his audio together. But I'm going to the definition of reversion so that you all can see, because I had to do the same thing in order to get my concepts correct on the Constitution, not only being a trust, but it's also a reversion. Not necessarily an escheat, but
he said it's cheap. All right, so he mentioned 3 terms. Estate. One second.
Fast. So
he mentioned a trust. He mentioned reversionary right, or which is called remanagement, and he mentioned estate. But he's going to define them based upon the Black Law Dictionary so you can get some type of understanding. But all that in which he's going to Black Law to get an understanding originated not from the Black Law, but from English common law. He ain't telling you that. He's not saying anything about that, though. All right. So you have to comprehend what it is that they're not telling you.
Reversion. Almost there. There we go. So this is the term reversion or a state in reversion. And keep in mind, the definition of a cheat is a reversion of property. So it's dealing with an cheat. So reversion or state in reversion is defined as the residue of an estate left by operation of law in the grantor or his heirs. So when you look at the Constitution, let me do a split screen, and I'm gonna turn it back over to you, Franchi. When you look at the Constitution, hold on one second. Let me get it to fit. 1 second. Okay. You're looking at a reversion. So the grantor would be we the people. The heirs of the we the people is the posterity of the people, and it's mentioned right here in the preamble. Then it says, or in the heirs of a testator, commencing in possession on the determination of a particular estate.
What's that, Middleton? Continental.
Now, I'm going down to reversionary interest, because in order for you to understand reversion, you also have to understand reversionary interest, because this is the interest that the
monarch
or the heirs have in the estate, which includes the land, which is why in the divine constitution and bylaws of the Moorish Science Temple of America.
Hold on, let's go back.
Said, I'm going to the definition of.
How could you, as an heir, have an estate reverted back to you if it is cheated to the state?
The Constitution.
How can you? Ain't no heirs. Heirs died out as a result of interstate. So how are you going to have the reversionary power to revert the estate back to you when you ain't an heir? It is cheated to the state.
Reversion. Almost there. There we go. So this is the term reversion or a state in reversion.
You're right, Brother Thomas. They need the king.
Keep in mind, the definition of a cheat is a reversion of property.
So he said the definition of a cheat is a reversion of property. So they're saying that they got the right to revert their property back to them as being heirs because it is cheated. The only way something can cheat if there's no heirs. So if you're not an heir and you came to have the right of escheatment power, then that means that you are taking somebody else's property. You are a foreigner. You just said it. Claiming to be citizen, but you're not a citizen because citizens have a nationality because that's based upon, as United States versus Juan Kim Ark said, English common law. Those are the ones who have the right of reversionary or remandment power. But they ain't around no more because it's interstate. All heirs are considered doomed, lost to sea, or whatever the case may be. All right? How do I know that? Let's just look at it. Here go a picture from New Jersey real estate book. So Brother Marcel and Brother Taj, if a person dies interstate, that means ain't no heirs around on the land. So that means that the only action now that can take place as a result of the sheep power is do what we call eminent domain power or acquisition of sovereignty. Okay? And that will be any state or the United States who take land for public use that don't belong to them without compensating them, because how you going to compensate an heir when the heir is consumed to not be around? They said when they got here, the land was abandoned. You know what I'm saying? What nobody here. So how do you got the right of escheatment in regard to the reversionary right? The only person got that right if the land is the king or the crown, because that's the concept of the crown, based upon the free and common soul. When we got right here in New Jersey by statute, that explains the whole thing. But yet you have not shown one statute to qualify the power that you got in lieu of escheatment. Not one solid law. We must comprehend the game being played on us, brothers and sisters. Let's go back to the video before I qualify that it's me, the king. All right. It's me, the crown. It's us, the heirs, who have the right as a result of the incorporation of our society as English national and based upon the incorporation of the customs and traditions that were there prior to us coming to the acknowledgement of who we were, based upon understanding English political science. All right. The science of the English government in order to be a citizen of the English government, because the English government here in North America is based upon the supreme law of the land. And we just know based upon what they said in regards to citizen, it must be interpreted by the laws of England. Who can argue with that? No one can. Let's see. Let's see how far they dig a hole for themselves.
It's dealing with an escheat. So reversion or a state of reversion is defined as the residue of an estate left by operation of law in the grantor or his heirs. So
in the grantor or his heirs.
Let me do a split screen and I'm gonna turn it back over to you, Grand Sheik. When you look at the Constitution, hold on one second. Let me get it to fit. 1 second. Okay. You're looking at a reversion. So the grantor would be we the people. The heirs of the we the people is the posterity of the people. And it's mentioned right here in the preamble. Then it says, or in the heirs of a testator, commencing in possession on the determination of a particular estate granted or devised. Now, I'm going down to
a testator is someone who creates a will, a last will and testament. All right, that's how they understand trust law. By somebody leaving a last will and testament. Was no Moroccan alive today that created a last will and testament to some heir, which you claim to be, because why? Based upon the laws of escheat, ain't no heirs. So how there's a testator creating a will, last will, and testament for the testatee, whatever term you choose to call. All right? You sound incompetent, bro, to someone who's competent.
In order for you to understand reversion, you also have to understand reversionary interest, because this is the interest that the grantor has or the heirs have in the estate, which includes the land, which is why in the divine constitution and bylaws of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Noble Drew Ali said right here in Act 4, all members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government. Because by being a Moorish American, by you being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel. Parcel deals with the land of the government and must live the life accordingly.
So how did they make that connection? That's how I want to know. How did they automatically assume that Act 4 of the Moorish Science of America Divine Constitution bylaws relates to the we the people, when we the people, based upon citizenship, must be rooted in the English common law? Why? unless Noble Drew Ali's chapter 29 was in fact true indeed, that this organization was truly on the auspices or rooted in English common law. If that's what he was saying, because you got a chapter 29 that involves the King of England. Okay? Not a sultan, not a prophet, but a king. All right? And we understand that you want to be one of the people, and for that you must be or have a nationality here as one of the people. Not just a citizen, but a citizen with a nationality. All right? If you can't establish that, then you don't have a right to a parcel of land in the government. All right? Because the land in the government belongs to the grantor, the owner. When he conveys it, that's a parcel estate. That's called a land tenure or a fiddle tenure. If it's a land tenure, that means that you ain't getting taxed for it. If it's a fiddle tenure, that means you're getting taxed for it. So if you're paying taxes for some land that you call an estate of land, then guess what? It's not from the original grantor. It's not from the original grantor. All right? Come on, stop playing games.
That's the case, then Moorish Americans have to be mentioned in the preamble of the Constitution if they are part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. So in order for you to live the life accordingly, you have to know your position in the government. And it's mentioned right here in the preamble. And in this preamble, you'll see the reversion. So here is the heirs' reversionary interest. This is the reversionary interest of the heirs. I'm going to go over the definition.
Okay. So he's talking about the reversionary interest that the Moors have as being one of the people here in regards to some type of estate and land, as a result of the land being escheated. All right? That's what they're saying. I'm going to prove that they don't have a clue about what they're talking about. All right? Let's finish it. Let's hear them out.
Of reversionary interest, which is the interest which a person has in the reversion of lands or other property, a right to the future enjoyment of property at present in the possession or occupation of another.
Stop the press. Stop the press. So they're talking about reversion of lands and other property. They haven't showed you one legislative citation, not one statutory citation, not one president's citation. All this is being determined by a definition in the Black Law Dictionary. All right? That they're making a claim. All right? We must comprehend that. So let's just look up the terms that they're talking about. Trust law. So let's look up trust law real quick. All right? I'm not talking about you, brothers. I just want to enlighten you that you have no clue about what you're talking about. But you have a chance to be able to comprehend if you listen. All right? If you listen. A trust is a legal relationship in which the owner of property or any transferable right gives it to another to manage and to use solely for the benefit of the designated person. That will be the beneficiary. Okay? And the English common law, not Moorish common law, not Muslim common law, not any other common law, but the English common law, because citizenship determined by English common law, as the United States versus Juan Kim Ark has established it, dealing with nationals as the subject matter in the case stated, contrast to a foreign national. You're a national, but you're foreign, so you don't have the same status as a national will have as the national of the land. All right? Based upon it being subject to what they call the common law of the land, what would be English law. So in English common law, the party who entrusted the property is known as the settlor. The party to whom it is entrusted is known as the trustee, and the party for whom benefit the property is entrusted is known as who? The beneficiary. Okay? Very, very important. Very simple. Okay? Let's deal with his right of escheatment, since these are the terms he used. Escheat. Escheat from Latin extradere for fall away is a common law doctrine that transfers the real property of a person who has died without heirs to the crown or the state. If the crown gets it, that means because that's the common socis. All right. If there's no heir, then the property remains interstate. When under inquisition post-mortem, it automatically reverts back under the jury gallery of the crown, who personifies the monarch who protects crown land, which is a separate from the crown, because who makes it up. Okay? A person who dies without an heir to the crown or state, it serves to ensure that property is not left up in what? Limbo, without recognized ownership. It's originally applied to a number of situations where a legal interest in land was destroyed by operation of law, so that the ownership of the land reverted to the immediately superior feudal lord. That's called reversion or remandement. Okay? We must comprehend if you're going to know what you're talking about. Okay? Reversion of mandament. Okay? Let's see. Let's go to the statute. All right? Since we're talking about the United States, let's just disqualify them right now. New Jersey Revised Statute, Title 46, governing property. Title 46:3-1, feudal tenure is abolished. You're talking about estates in land or feudal tenures in land or land tenures or some type of parcel in the land. According to the statute, it has been abolished. How do we know that? That there is not supposed to be any land tenures given out because all the heirs is gone and the land remains allodial, and that means it reverts back to the king based upon the crown, which is the concept of the crown based upon free and common socis. Here's a statute qualifying it right here. Feudal tenure has been abolished. The feudal tenures in the states and incidents thereof taken away, discharged, and abolished from and after March 12, 1664 by Section 2 of an act entitled An Act Concerning Tenure, passed February 18, 1795, to so continue to be taken away, discharged, and abolished, and no state or incident thereof shall at any time be created in any manner whatsoever. So based upon the laws governing land or estates in land, based upon feudal tenure, because feudal means tax, all right? And you're being taxed, all right? We know feudal land or feudal tenure started with who? William the Conqueror when he invaded what? England. We got it right here in the statute. So that means that the charter given by Duke of York to George Carteret and John Berkeley were now surrendered back to the crown. Okay? We must comprehend this language. How do we know that? Let's prove it. Case law, which they have failed to provide. We went through this in my last 4 lectures. New Jersey Statute Annotated Revised Statute 2865-3, where the laws govern the administration of criminal and civil justice. Okay? And this is a statute created for heir to bring a claim for waste and property on a tenant who has mismanaged the property, and as a result of that, you can not only file for a reversion of management of the state, but get paid treble damages. How many of the Moorish Scientific Americans or members of the Moorish Consular or any type of group out there have shown you statutory validation of the right and authority that you're supposed to have when you're acting in some type of capacity, acting in a fiduciary duty that might be opposing to them, but yet is justified by the law? How many of them have done that? All right? A civil action may be maintained in the Superior Court against a tenant, and upon finding that waste has been committed, treble damages should be asserted or granted, and the defendant should lose the thing or place wasted. Okay, that's involved trespass. Although the genesis of the statute dates back to England when the statute of Marlinburg was enacted in 1267, there is very little recent cases law on the subject matter. Okay, it says right here. Were the court to simply follow the Fox case, treble damages arguably would not be permitted. The decision in Fox Super, however, was based upon a decision that was heard or dissented in the New Jersey's Court of Chancery, and the court ruled in that case law in that case it stated that the section of the revised statute governing 2A65-3 in regards to being paid treble damages when somebody has wasted property under what we call waste law. Okay. Waste law. How many of you know about waste law? The section of the revised statute on which complainants relies is based upon an old relic or ancient law that goes back to the Middle Ages, taken from the statute of Gloucester by Edward I of the Plantagenet Crown, who we are members of based upon our certificate of incorporation, which make us part of the family. Okay? That particular statute going back to 1267 and 1278 was incorporated in the state of New Jersey by Governor William Patterson, who was nominated by George Washington, all right, the first president of the United States. Governor Patterson followed the Statute of Gloucester and other ancient English statutes and drafted an act called the Act under new 2A:65-3, which is treble damages, and he incorporated it on March 17, 1795. His statute has retained in place in the hooks with minor changes now appearing in Section Title 2A of the revised statute. Okay, so you must understand that the power of reversion and remandment, based upon what we're reading right here, is based upon those who are the heirs, based upon the statutory law that was incorporated under the administrative statute governing criminal and civil justice by our king, which I'm now the predecessor, Edward I. Okay, Edward I, and we have the right of reversion and remandering based upon the statutory law governing property. That will be what title? Title 46. Okay, Title 46. Let's look at it. Let's go here first. In regards to an heir claiming treble damages because they have not only trespassed, but they also have wasted the land that they trespassed on. Okay? Right here. This is straight statute. 2A:37-9, the same statute that Governor William Patterson incorporated in the state of New Jersey. All right. And this is in regards to the power of escheatment. All right. That the so-called consulars of Morris Consular Courts, or the reconstruction of Morris Consular Court, which Todd Sharik and anybody else affiliated with them claim to have, as they claim to be citizens, known as what they call we the people. Well, why haven't you provided a statute denoting to your power as one of the people, but the power to escheat in any state within the United States? Why haven't any one of you done that? I have done that. I have shown the authority as the king. Let's see it. States, parties, defendants to action to foreclose liens on escheated property, service or process. Okay, we got a court case right now filed in civil court based upon this statute. The right to bring a claim when wasted of land has been mismanaged by those who are considered what they call landlords and tenants, because a landlord got his charter from who? The crown. Okay. It states verbatim, when any real estate which has escheated or may escheated to the state of New Jersey, on which prior to such a street there exists or may exist any lien or any mortgage, pledge, or hypothecation in such real estate, the holder of such mortgage, pledge, or hypothecation may make the state of New Jersey a party defendant to his action for the foreclosure thereof, whether instituted in a state court or in a federal court. The state of New Jersey should be considered to be served with proper and sufficient process and brought within the jurisdiction of any such court when a summons shall have been or served on the Attorney General of the state. The state of New Jersey being named as a party defendant in such a summons. You can't do that in the court, consular court. You can only do that in a court that's under the subject to the courts of the common law, which will be a size court, which the state of New Jersey Superior Court is. If an attorney general shall refuse to acknowledge the service of the summons, the physical delivery is a true copy thereof, and the exhibition to the attorney general of the original summons shall be considered a good and sufficient service to comply with the provisions of this section. We must understand what's being said to you. Why? Because the property that New Jersey has in lieu of its treatment is what they call abandoned property under Title 46, colon 30B-1. Let's look at it. Title 46, property. Short title. This chapter should be known and may be cited as the Uniform Unclaimed Property Act under Title 46. Title 46 governs property. Uniform Unclaimed Property is called the Escheat Act. Okay? The Escheat Act. And the heir has the right to bring a claim when the state has property that is ceded to him because it was considered abandoned. Okay? It was considered abandoned. That goes back to the diagram. If the heir dies, then it is ceased. That means it's abandoned. Bonner, Baker, Tina. Okay? So if the property that was under the authority of the crown in 1776, under the authority of the king in 1776, personified by de facto monarch called Queen Anne and every other monarch that came in their place. That means that everything that they had was left intact by the Treaty of Paris of 1783 that now surrendered the governing powers to the colonies, which temporarily was acting under the power and authority of the common law. We can go back to the Constitution for that, which we'll see in a second. Matter of fact, let's do it now. Let's see now. William Paterson. William Paterson was not only a judge in the United States Supreme Court, nominated by George Washington, he was the governor of New Jersey, all right? Not only a governor of New Jersey, he was the senator of New Jersey, as well as the attorney general, okay? The attorney general. So we go back to New Jersey's Constitution, being that William Paterson was the attorney general, as well as the senator, as well as not just a governor, but a judge in New Jersey. And when you go back to him, he was nominated by George Washington, which is one of your founding fathers, okay? Or the founding father, okay? Who represented the first head of state, okay? So let's go to New Jersey Constitution. Since William Paterson was nominated by George Washington, and we know William Paterson became the new governor when William Livingston, the illegitimate son of Benjamin Franklin, was arrested as a result of the founding fathers in the Continental Congress overthrowing the crown. All right? Overthrowing the crown. He said it in his two-road speech to his father, Benjamin Franklin, in where? New Jersey on January 13th, 1775. Okay? 1775. Let's go to New Jersey's Constitution to qualify this. Article 22 and 23. Article 22 of New Jersey's Constitution. It says that the common law of England, as well as so much as the statute as have been here to practice in this colony, should remain in force until they should be altered by future legislation, such parts only accepted as are repugnant to the rights and privileges contained in this charter, and that the estimable right to a trial by a jury should remain confirmed as part of the law of the colony without repeal forever. Article 23. That every person who should be elected or forced to be a member of the legislative council or house of assembly should be previous to his taking his seat of council or assembly to take the following oaths or affirmation. All right, if it involves William Patterson, then it involves Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, as well as George Washington. All right, it involves all of them in regards to Article 23, which is the article involving the states or the Union States before they became the United States. And they all had a social compact under Anglo-Saxon law to now restore the government back to the original state as it was under the crown when somebody felt that position of the crown. Because remember, people change, positions don't. They didn't want to sit in that position because they ain't the people to sit in it. So it says, I, A, and B, do solemnly declare that a member of the Legislative Council for the Assembly, as a case may be, of the Colony of New Jersey, I will not assent to any law, vote, or proceedings which shall appear to me injurious to the public welfare, i.e., the public domain, of the said colony, nor there shall annul or repeal that part of the third section in the charter of this colony, which establishes that the elections of the members of the Legislative Council and Assembly shall be annual, nor that part of the 22nd section of the said charter respecting the trial by a jury, nor shall annul, repeal, or alter any part of the 18th or 19th section of the same. And any person or person who should be elected as the force is hereby empowered to administer the said members of that said oath of affirmation. Provided always, you hear? This is the exception, okay? Provided always in its true intent and meaning of that conquest, which involves all your founding fathers, that if a reconciliation between Great Britain and these colonies should take place, and that the latter be taken under the protection and the government of the Crown of Great Britain, this charter should be null and void, otherwise remain firm and inviolable. Whose signature do you have here? Not only Seymour Tucker, but William Patterson. Okay? William Patterson, right there. He was an Ulster Protestant who immigrated to this country. Now, why is this important? Because he was nominated by George Washington, and George Washington was one of the founding fathers who took part in the Continental Congress, which broke away from the crown under the de facto authority under the British monarch. That means that they understood what was going on. How we know that? Let's hear from the horse's mouth. Jefferson Monticello divided loyalty between Benjamin Franklin and William Franklin, the last royal governor of the crown. The era of conferring between father and son would come to an end with the advent of the American Revolution. Benjamin Franklin, sometimes referred as the reluctant revolutionary, hoped at first that the differences between the British could be resolved. When he did join the revolutionary cause, though he was all in, though he was all in and pursued goals of freedom and liberty with vigor. He expected his William could be persuaded to do likewise. Hadn't William always followed his father lead before, that being Benjamin Franklin? This time, Benjamin will be bitterly disappointed. In August 1775, Franklin traveled to New Jersey to convince William to join the rebellion. He told his son he would be accepted with open arms by those opposing the king and could easily win a generalship and the army forming under George Washington, the same person who appointed William Patterson. And William Patterson took an oath that if the crown was ever restored, that they will honor that restoration. Okay? All right, so there's no need to restoration or restore a consular court because those are not the court of this land. William refused, remarking that if his father was determined to set the colonies on fire, he trusted that he would take care to run away by the light of it, i.e., the light of that fire. He going the other way. As a loyalist, William believed America's best chance to succeed in remaining with the Britain. He also believed most Americans would not support the rebellion. William's break with his father became very public with his two-road speech to New Jersey, January 13, 1775, to the legislature, urging them then to refuse the endorse of the newly formed Continental Congress and take the road to prosperity as part of England rather than the road of civil war and anarchy. His efforts were to no avail. We must comprehend what's going on. The Moroccan Treaty. A peace and friendship. Following several overtures by the Sultan and with the urging of John Adams, John Jay, and Benjamin Franklin, in 1785, the United States Congress authorized negotiations for the treaty with Morocco. American diplomat Thomas Barclay was chosen to represent the United States and with the aid and backing of Spain, met in Morocco's counterpart, Tahir Fanis in Marrakesh in June 1786. The treaty was finalized within days of the Barclay arrival, sealed by Muhammad III, the Sultan, not king, and signed by Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, as their respective diplomatic posts in Paris and London, and Congress ratified the treaty on the 18th of July, 1787, which was to last 50 years. What was the subject matter concerning the treaty? It all had to do with trade and commerce. It had nothing to do with reversion or remandering of the land whatsoever. Okay? There's no way you can associate that treaty with some type of birthright in regards to your right as an heir to be able to revert the land back to you as a result of a compact or an agreement or a contract made with the founding fathers. The treaty had to do everything with the parties involved, but it had nothing to do with the land itself, because the land was subject to the grantor who gave the charter for those who incorporated based upon that charter to do their bidding. Okay? We must comprehend what's going on. Back to the video.
That reverts to the grantor after the expiration of an intervening income interest. Assume, for example, G places real estate in trust with income to A for 11 years. And upon the expiration of this term, the property returns to G.
Stop. Okay. So now, how you chose a definition from Black Law definition, you chose a excerpt from the Constitution of the United States, and you associated both of those with the Moorish Americans who are associated with consulars acting in a physical capacity in regards to some land or transfer of land or conveyance of land back to you as an heir, but you haven't proven that you are in fact and indeed a citizen. All right, you're going to assume that you represent G when you're not. How do you fit the equation of you being G? You can't. You haven't provided one statute, one legislation, one a citation of the common law to prove that you are in fact the heirs or the one to be able to have the authority to be able to revert the property back to you, based upon the example given here in Black Law Dictionary as you being G, and G should stand for God. God should stand for Lord, and Lord should be the ruler of the land. Greetings, Brother MacArthur Brother McGarrett from the House of Garrett. Glad you were able to join us. Kind of late though, but nonetheless, we're glad you're here. All right, let's finish out this.
D has retained a reversionary interest in the property. So let's change that around. We'll say instead of G, we'll say the Moorish Americans.
How you gonna do that?
or part and parcel of the government, place real estate in trust with income to the United States of America for, the treaty says 50 years under Article 25. And upon the expiration of this term, and Article
The treaty says nothing about the transfer of an estate and land based upon a reversionary right or abandonment right as you being an heir. Because you're not an heir over here. You ain't we the people. You ain't a citizen. You said you are a foreign national. So how does the reversionary right to an estate here applies to you based upon the reversionary right of an estate that is ceded to those who are considered what they call trustees? Please explain that. You have not done so. So as a result of your lack of capacity to be able to do your job, I have to do it for you. Okay? Let's finish it out and let's explain that.
Article 25 of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1836 between the United States of North America and the Moroccan Empire says the treaty shall be continued and enforced with the help of God for 50 years. Then it's a semicolon, and it says after the expiration of which term, the treaty shall continue to be binding on both parties until the one shall give 12 months notice to the other of their intention of abandoning it. In that case, can't remember the last part of the sentence, but basically, treaties expire, but it's still in force. And then it says the property returns to G, which is Moorish Americans.
Stop.
Under these terms,
They're not talking about real estate, buddy. They're talking about property that falls in the hands of through acquisition of sovereignty as a result of some type of civil war, some type of revolution, etc. But when there are no wars, the property must return back. We can go to Brown versus what's that case? Let me just pull it up for you real quick. Where is it at? Let me go to my brief. Let me go to my brief. I probably don't have to go. Yeah. Complete brief. Let me go to the brief to qualify this case law. I think I refer to the brief. Brown, page 12. Right here. Common law citation. Brown versus State of New York. Okay. Although the Supreme Court has drawn on common law principles to define the scope of liability and liabilities in these actions and constitutional and common law torts. Constitution and common law torts frequently protect similar interests. The cause of action are not coexistence. It says that the common law of tort deals with the relation between individuals by imposing on a legal obligation for the benefit of the other, assessing damage for harm occasioned by a failure to fulfill an obligation. Common law duties arise in virtually all relationships and protect against most risks or harm. Constitutional duties make contracts address a limited number of concerns and limited set of relationships. Constitution insists the right in individuals to impose duties on the government to regulate government action, protect them. Matter of fact, let me go to the actual case because it talks about property being confiscated at the time of war must be returned. Let's see, Brown versus Brown versus State. Let's see. I think this is the case right here. That's not it. 19. Was it 1996 case? That's not it. Hold on. Matter of fact, I'm gonna move on. I ain't gonna have time to look that case up. All right, but it's a good case. All right, let me just continue on. All right, where was I at? All right. Let's see.
Under these terms, the grantors, Moorish Americans, has retained a reversionary interest in the property. Now, when you go to Article 1, Section 1, all legislative powers herein granted. Who's speaking? Grantors. And who's the grantors if we are part and parcel of this said government? It'll be the Aboriginal people of the land, the Moorish Americans. They're saying in the Continental Congress, all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in the Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. But when those powers are not delegated, they are reserved to who? The grantors or his heirs. And with that being said, Grand Sheik, and I appreciate you so much because you've been hammering this in people's heads for years. And only a few have taken the time out to do the research and the study, even if it's to prove you wrong. And they end up proving themselves right when they study and analyze and basically, you know, do their due diligence of looking up the information themselves.
Okay, so we can prove him wrong. He just said that. So let's prove him wrong. All right, not to disqualify him, but to correct him. Okay, since you're talking about the Moorish Science Temple of America, or the Moors have the right to be able to revert or convert by way of reversion or abandonment, by way of some type of operation of law, which you have not shown the ability to be able to revert or remand back in the state based upon operation of law that was left by an ancestor or what we call the grantor. The grantor should be the owner. All right, there should be some statutory process that allows the conveyance of property to an heir or a lost heir who didn't know he was an heir. Okay. And you took a definition from a Black Law Dictionary, and the dictionary gave an example based upon how properties be conveyed. But there's certain ways property can be conveyed concerning the reversion or abandonment of property. It could be fee simple or entail. You're talking about fee simple. Fee simple resulted from a process called common recovery that was done by lawyers turning entail estate into estates through life terms. Okay, with at the end of the life term, all right, it reverts back to the original owner, all right, the grantor, all right. You have improved that the Sultan of Morocco, or you as an ambassador or consular of the Moroccan as a Moroccan representative, that you are the grantor. Who gave the ability to be able to remand and revert property when you have improvement? You are in fact, or you are the owner. That question will be answered right now. Okay? In order for the property to exceed back to the original owner would be the grantor, you have to understand property law. Okay? Property law and Black Law Dictionary is not going to suffice. All right? So let's look at it. Since we know William Franklin, which was the not only a judge, not only a governor, not only a senator, but actually an attorney general, which was nominated by George Washington, one of your founding fathers, which is one of the trustees, which were now one of the people, because based upon citizenship in the National Act of 1790, they didn't concern their citizenship was based upon some genetic or ethnicity test. That was based upon, as established in the United States versus One Kim Art, based upon the English common law of England. And that was based upon, as it's stated in the case, English nationality. Okay? It specifically said English nationality, and the only way that can be acknowledged is by you being a subject to the king. Okay? Subject to the king. So let's explain this in full detail. All right?
So
Also, when you look at that, as you're saying, when you
where that he is kept,
Let's see. Let's go here. New Jersey Revised Statute on the authority of reversion and remandment. All right, what is reversion and remandment? Let's see what that means again. Already defined it, right? We already defined, and that is a result of the power to escheat. Okay, that means the power of escheat is the power to a power of reversion and remandment. Okay, to return something back to the original owner. Okay, that is the power of the grantor. All right, that's called a habeas clause. Okay, it's called a habeas clause. All right, so when we look at the word trust law and the street law and the power of reversion and remandment based upon trust law through escheating the property that transferred by way of conversion to somebody else as a result of interstate. Interstate meaning that there are no more heirs. Okay? There are no more heirs. So let's look at the term crown. Well, let's go to this sheet. In closing. Escheat is a common law doctrine that transfers the real property of a person who has died without heirs. You hear that? A person who has died without heirs. So that means that you're not an heir. You are not an heir. Ain't no heirs around. So that means that if you claim to be an heir of the more assigned to America, that means that you don't have the power to escheat. Because ain't no heirs around. I'm not only the heir, I'm the king. I'm the head of the nation. Because I have the power of escheatment as a result of heirs not being around and the property, personal or real, has abandoned to some foreigner through what we call acquisition or eminent domain power. Okay? Escheat from that exit there means to fall away. It's a common law doctrine that transfer, all right, conveys. Transfer means to convey the real property of the person who has died without heirs to the crown or state. That's the power of reversion and remandment. That's the power of reversion or remandment. So it can only go to two ways. It didn't say the consular courts. It said either the crown or the state. Whatever state you're in. So that means that if the state of Maryland, wherever y'all guys are operating under, it doesn't take the property in lieu of the power of escheat by way of reversion or remandment, then that means that it belongs to the crown. You don't represent the state. You are a foreign national. So a person who has died without heirs to the crown or estate is served to ensure that property is not left in limbo without recognized ownership. It originally applied to a number of situations where a legal interest in land was destroyed by operation of law, so that the ownership of the land reverted to the immediately superior feudal lord. Feudal lord deals with land that's under feudal tenure. Okay? Feudal lord deals with that land that's under feudal tenure. When you look in the box here, there are different types of estates and land. All right? Personal property, community property, real property, and unowned property, which means abandoned property. Then there's forms of acquisition, voluntary or involuntary. Voluntary is gifts, adverse possessions, deeds. Involuntary is conquest, discovery. All right. Loss, mislaid, abandoned property. All right. Alienation. All right. Estates and landowners also called allodial title. When there's a allodial title, that means that there are no feudal tenures or land tenures, because the land is allodial. No one has it but the owner. All right? The owner has not decided what to do with it. As a result of, there's no one to inherit it. New Jersey does not own the land allodial. The United States does not own the land allodial. They own it fee simple. If it's allodial and it's a result of it not being in fee tail, because fee tail means intel, which means that they are heirs. If there are no heirs, then it automatically streets to the state, which the state gives it fee simple. So if you are an heir, you own land fee tail, because fee tail originated from the allodial title from the king when he decided to grant it out to an heir through fee tail, which was taken through fee simple through the process of con recovery. It automatically denotes to three types of estates: life estates, the feasible estates. Okay, or what they call fee simple. All right, we must understand these terms if you're going to have any type of argument and anything in regards to an estate you claim to be yours. All right, so estates and land, if there's not an heir, automatically escheats to either the crown or the state, not the Moorish Science of America, not the consulars who speak on behalf of the Moorish Science of America, not the United States, not the states themselves, because as they said, the power is in the people. What people? The people or the subjects of the crown who have a nationality, or the people who are citizens of the state who don't have a nationality? Because what determines your nationality? Your corporate domicile or corporate residency. All right? And that corporate residency or corporate domicile determines your primary business for being there. Either you're employed as a citizen of the crown or you're employed as a citizen of the state. Well said, Brother Thomas from the House of Thomas. All right. So since we're talking about the only two people have the power to escheat as a result of interstate, meaning there are no heirs, then we got to go back to the state of New Jersey, because New Jersey goes back to the founding fathers, who which goes back to George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, and they were the ops who went against the crown, which was protected by the world governor William Franklin. And William Franklin was under authority of, which was established by Lord Cornbury, the first world governor, who established a fusional government under the crown, which was indefinite. The crown is indefinite, means that there's no beginning and there's no end. Okay, if there is no representation, then that's called an interregnum, meaning that there is no office being held. So there is no parliament being held. Okay, but when the king comes back, parliament comes back, because that's part of the fusional government as established under the crown. All right, we must comprehend that. Okay, so let me show you everything in regards to the power that we have based upon us as being nationals under the English common law of England, which established the citizenship when we were emancipated from the 13th Amendment and freed by the 14th Amendment, and it was given a choice of what law that we were going to use to exhilarate or establish our freedom. What law? Was it the 14th Amendment based upon that for those who become citizens of the state, or the 14th Amendment of those who become nationals based upon the authority that was established by the crown? Okay, That's a question that you all must ask yourself that, because apparently the consulars didn't ask that. They didn't ask that. Let's just hear a little bit more on the conversations they have in this Sunday civics class. A little bit more before I break it down.
The Morris Honors and his
Where was we at?
Or a few years later, his tractor now
and they'll look me right in the eye.
All right.
Because our estate is still in reversion, and it's not even with trustees anymore. And we letting these lawless ones, you know, the other reason why I chose to do a topic on tonight's topic on this was because I finally saw or I looked into what is her name? Allie? Is it Allie? What's her name?
Allison.
Allison. I finally looked all the way into her case. And, you know, she gave a lot of warnings. She did a website. And she gave a lot of warnings, you know, in the beginning of her video. But then she started to get graphic and start talking about even how the MK Ultra is.
A little bit more. 1 second, y'all.
And that's how you know the sellout.
Because our estate is still in reversion, and it's not even with trustees anymore. It's with lawless people that sacrifice.
Here it is.
Yeah.
That's their incorporation papers.
That's it.
And that's their incorporation number. And filed 7/15/25. And put that in line with the timeline when Drawley adopted or registered the Moorish Divine National Movement as a civic organization. On the back of your questionnaire. Also in the historical message to America, gives you the history. And so what they're doing, trying to preclude the learning curve in the movement. That's why you see all of that sellout during that time. See that number? The file date. And here's your owners of the corporation. Hold on. So you'll see here, that's their incorporation date. And then you'll see, here are the owners. That's their signatures. And so what you have is an interregnum operation pretending to be government. And when you understand.
You hear that? An interregnum operation. We're going to close that. We're going to leave this alone. We're going to look up interregnum before I qualify everything. Interregnum. An interregnum, plural interregna or interregnums, is the period of discontinuity or a gap in a government, organization, or social order. You hear that? Archetype typically, it was a period of time between the reign of one monarch and the next, coming from Latin, between the reigns. Did you hear that? Did y'all hear that? All right. So how are they not associating interregnum with a king? Why? You're using words loosely. All right. So it says arch typically was a period of a time between the reign of one monarch and the next, coming from the Latin inter, between, and regnum, reign. From rex, regus means king, and the concept of interregnum and regency therefore overlap. Historically, longer and heavier interregna has been typically accompanied by widespread unrest, civil and succession wars between warlords, power vacuums fouled by foreign invasions, or emergence of a new power, a failed state, or usually an interregnum. This is called a provisionary government. A provisionary government. The states government and the United States government are provisionary government because they were put there as a result of a collapse in government as a result of what we call an interregnum. Okay? When the crown was here, there was no interregnum. When the crown went away, it became the interregnum. Okay? We must understand what this means. So let me show you statutorily how the interregnum came about through the statute. In closing, I'm going to show you this all through the statute. Statute governing property. Okay? Only I have the power to exceed. All the feudal tenures, i.e. tenures in land, that were being taxed, because feudal tenures estates means the states and lands that are taxed. That goes back to the time of William the Conqueror when they invaded England, the land of the Anglo-Saxon Berbers, according to the 1911 Encyclopedia Britannica. And the interest thereof taken away, discharged, and abolished from and after March 12, 1664. So this is 1664, March 12, when Charles II gave the charter to the Duke of York, which he gave to George Carteret and John Berkeley, which was surrendered back to the crown in 1776. Why? In 1702. Why? Because the charters were dissolved. Okay? They were dissolved. It said it right here. Feudal tenures are abolished, meaning that no one is supposed to have an interest in any land over here and what they call not just New Jersey or North America. All right? We must comprehend that. Because this statute involves the king, a Scottish king, Duke of York, March 12, 1664. Let's go to the next one. Certain tenures and holdings turn into free and common soakage. All right? (46:3-2). The tenures of honors, manors, lands, tenements, or hereditaments, that means any type of estate that's subject to reversion or remandering, here in what we call the United States, concerning an estate left for an heir, and it has to be an heir under the common law because it mentions the inheritance at the common law. So if you're not an heir based upon the laws of the common law, then you have no right to lands over here in regards to honors, manors, lands, tenements, or hereditaments, or an estate of inheritance at any common law held either of the King of England or any other person or body of politics or corporate at any time before July 4th, 1776. That means that before America declared their independence, all land tenures over here remain free in common soakage and no longer feudal tenure. How we know that? Let's look at the crown. What was the purpose of the crown and crown land before we go back here? And closing. The concept of the crown. Moors, y'all better be paying attention. The concept of the crown took form under the feudal system. Once again, we just read it, 46:3-1. Though not used in all ways in our country, that had the system in England. All rights and privileges were ultimately bestowed by the ruler, the owner, the grantor, i.e. the crown. Land, for instance, was granted by the crown to lords in exchange for feudal services, and they in turn granted the land to lesser lords. One exception, everyone better listen, was that those type of grants given to lesser lords known as free, income, and soakage. One exception to this was the common soakage owners of land held as soakage held is subject only to who, y'all? The crown. When such land become ownerless, they are said to exceed, i.e., return direct ownership of the crown. If the crown is not there, then it goes to the state by way of bona vacatina, abandoned property. They don't have a royal prerogative. You don't have a royal prerogative because the prerogatives for writ of mandamus, quo warranto, writ of circulator, habeas corpus are rich or prerogative rich under the jure regalia of the crown. And the main concept of the crown was for free and common soakage on land that exceeded as a result of no more heirs, and that means interstate. How I know it, let's look up crown land. What is crown land? Crown land, also known as the royal domain or the public domain or the what we call what they call it, the public domain on the federal level, and there's another word I'm forgetting. It'll come to me. Anyhow, the crown land, also known as royal domain, is a territorial area belonging to the monarch who personifies, who incarnates, who incorporates the crown. So in order for the crown to exist, it must be incorporated and personified. By who? A natural person, because the crown is a corporation soul, and a representative is that of a natural person. It is the equivalent of an entailed estate and passes with the monarch being inseparable from it. So public domain is also known as public domain. Okay? Public land is called public domain on the federal level. All right? And it's a part of the royal domain called crown land, which is personified by the crown. And what is the crown? The crown is a corporation soul, which represents one natural person. Okay? What is the concept of the crown? That outside of the sheet and power they have. The concept of the crown as a corporation soul developed first in the Kingdom of England as the separation of the physical crown and property of the kingdom from the person and personal property of the monarch. So what is a corporation soul? United States versus Chisholm versus Georgia would tell you that. There's a difference. A corporation soul is a legal entity consisting of a single soul incorporated office occupied by a single soul natural person. This structure allows corporations, often religious corporations or Commonwealth government, to pass without interruption from one office holder to the next. So therefore, there is no interregnum. Given positions legal continuity with subsequent office holders having identical powers and possessions to their predecessors. You hear that? So the power our ancestors have, I now have. Why? Let's go back to the revised statute. In closing, the tenures and honors, manors, lands, and tenements, or of hereditaments, meaning that could be that which is hereditary, or an estate of inheritance, which means that it's inherited at the common law, not Islamic law, not Scottish law, not French law, but under the common law. And there's only one common law, especially concerning citizenship, based upon United States versus One Kim Art. It's the English common law, held either of the king, he right here, or any other person, which nobody chose to be king, right here, or body of politics. Body of politics is based upon your corporation. The body of politics for the state or the United States is based upon their articles of incorporation. All right? Or at any time before July 4th, 1776. So as a corporation soul, we incorporated the powers of our constituent corporation that existed prior to July 4th, 1776. They go back to what we call time immemorial, the time of Richard I. Okay? How do we know that? Let's go to Article 3. certain conveyances to operate in free and common soakage. All conveyances, mean ability to transfer, reversion, amendment, is devised of any manner of lands, tenements, or illegitimate made at any time prior to July 4th, 1776, to be construed to be of such an effect as if such manner of lands, tenements, or hereditaments have been then held, continue to be in free and common soakage only. That means under the king, because that's the concept of free and common soakage being held by the king, i.e., corporation sole. All right. So if you're talking about some type of ability to convey land through reverse amendment of the Constitution of 1789, that argument is disqualified. Okay? It's disqualified. Let's continue. In closing, nothing contained in this title shall take away or be construed or take away or discharge any rents, certain or other right incidents or belonging to tenures in common soakage created prior to July 4th, 1766, and due to grow and due or to grow due to the state or any person or the distressing incidents thereunto. So that means that the same contractual or social compact that existed prior to July 14th, July 4th, 1776, are still withstanding. They are still withstanding. All right, let's see. Alienation of freehold. From and after March 18th, 1795, any freeholder may give, sell, or alienate the real estate whereof he is, or at any time shall be seized in fee simple, or any part thereof at his pleasure, and such donor purchases or alienate shall hold the same free or anything of service to the donor, seller, or aliener. The donor was Edward I, because Edward I established Queen of Taurus. The law of His Majesty's concerning the selling and buying of land. Okay? Queen Emperor Taurus. Let's go to 6. Gifts, grants, and conveyances by the state is allodial. All gifts, all grants, or conveyances made prior to and after July 4th, that includes the Constitution, that includes any treaty made by the United States officials in their official capacity, as well as any other agency created by the state acting in their official capacity. It states here specifically that all gifts, grants, i.e. by some treaty, or conveyances made prior to and after July 4th, 1776, of an estate of an inheritance by a charter, i.e. a letter patent, under the great seal of this state, or any other manner by the state, by the legislative thereof, or by the commissioners or agents of forfeited states, or by other lawful competent authority under this state, shall be and remain elodial, not feudal, and shall forever be and continue in free allodium only, forever discharged of all feudal tenures and the incidents thereof, and all other services whatsoever. So if that's the case, what does allodial mean? Let's define this. In closing, allodial title. Allodial title, as established in New Jersey's Constitution, as well as New Jersey's parts of New Jersey Statute Title 46.3-6, says that the land is allodial. All right. Allodial title constitutes ownership of real property, land, buildings, and fixtures. All right. That is independent of any superior landlord. Allodial title relates to the concept of land held in allodium, or land ownership by occupancy and defense of the land. Most property ownership in common law jurisdiction is fee simple in the United States. Fee simple. In the United States, the land is subject to eminent domain by federal, state, and local government, and is subject to the imposition of taxes by the state or the local government. And there is thus no true allodial land. Land is held of the Crown in England and other jurisdictions in the Commonwealth rims. I repeat, most property ownership in common law jurisdiction is fee simple. In the United States, the land is subject to eminent domain by feudal on the federal level and feudal on the state level, as well as the municipal government, and is subject to impositions and encumbrances of taxes by the state, local, and federal government, and there is thus no or true allodial land. Now, New Jersey statute just said the land was allodial, all right? But the United States don't own the land allodial. Why? Because New Jersey, the land is allodial because the land remains under the crown. The only thing that's missing from the equation is the king. Okay? So this is why we must understand property law, real estate law. Right there. If the land is under eminent domain, there is no allodial title. The only one owns the allodial title is the crown. And the one represents the crown is the king. And guess what, brothers and sisters? I am the king of England. All right? Let's just prove that in closing. Now, Todd Tariq showed you the incorporation number of United States government. All right. Now I'm showing you the incorporation document of the Kingdom of England. Okay. On the public record pursuant to Title 46:1A-7, 47:1A-7, in regards to the public record, county record and the public record are one and the same. Here's our incorporation date, book and page number, county officer or constitutional officer, based upon Title 47:1A-1, which is responsible and entrusted with to protect the expectancy of our property right as subjects of the Kingdom of England under your king, the King of England, based upon our articles of incorporation, which is based upon Article 1. It states, the name and address, the name in the religious corporation shall be the Third Temple English Church of England, heirs, successors. The physical address of this religious corporation is in the care of 360 High Avenue, apartment 103, Perth Amboy, New Jersey, province of New Jersey, the Kingdom of England, because the province of New Jersey was under the crown. Okay? Under the crown. Article 2, which shows our primary business through our articles of corporation, which pretty much sets the standard for the status of all citizens, because corporations are citizens. So this is the corporation sole, a royal peculiar known as the crown. The corporation sole is a legal entity consisting of a single sole and corporated office occupied by a single sole natural person. This structure allows corporations, often religious corporations or Commonwealth government, to pass without interruption from one office holder to the next, giving positions legal continuity, with subsequent office holders having identical powers and possessions to their predecessors. Continuity means the continuance of the political government throughout the existence of the government. Okay? Article 3, our business purposes based upon our articles of corporation. A means for orderly transfer, conveyance, what we call right of reversion remandement. This is the right to transfer that property that is now under ecclesiastical property, i.e. the Vicar of the Roman Catholic Church, and transfer back to us, the English Church, by way of what we call the English Benedictine Reform, as done by King Edward the Peaceful. It states a means for ordinary transfer of ecclesiastical property serving to keep the title within the denomination of our religious society in order to keep the religious property from being treated as an estate of the vicar of the church. The property was titled to the office of the corporation sole, i.e. the king, i.e. the monarch. A corporation sole, i.e. the crown, is the legal embodiment of the executive, legislative, and judicial government and the monarchy of each commonwealth with wealth rim, just like it was back in 1776 that they all took an oath to return to once the crown was restored. So it's your obligation as members, if you are a member or a subject of the English church by way of the English common law, which was incorporated in all states' municipal law. It says the Magna Carta Clause 1. The liberties of the English church first that we have granted to God and by this present charter have confirmed for us and our heirs in perpetuity that the English church now we form as the English Third Temple Church of England to be free and shall have its rights undiminished and its liberties unimpaired as English king and heirs and successors duty and allegiance to restore the periods, life, and history of the English Anglo-Saxon Berbers, the English church, and our custom, law, tradition, religious belief back to time immemorial here in America, and commemorate our saints, martyrs of the past kings and queens, restore the mysteries of our King Edward the Peaceful, known as Jesus Christ, who I am the reincarnation of in this day and time. Okay? So with that, make sure I covered everything. Understand that the laws governing the people, the laws governing the land, and the laws governing the property based upon those who were entrusted to manage the property have been wasted. Okay? Waste is a term used in property law to describe the cause of action that can be brought in a court to address a change in conditions of real property as described under Title 46. All right? Brought about by a current tenant, i.e. the state of New Jersey, or any state within the United States, or any foreign state that claims to be acting on behalf of citizens. And as a result of those actions, they damage and destroy the value of that property right, i.e. that privacy right. And a lawsuit for waste can be brought against those acting in that capacity, whether you are a life tenant, a landlord, leasehold estate, because we know based upon the statute that we just read that there were supposed to be no leasehold 50 to 10-year estates on land that's allodial under the ownership of the grantor would be the crown, either by a current landlord or by the owner of any vested future interest which the Morris Science of America or those consuls are claimed to have a future interest. The holder of an executory interest, however, has no standing to enforce an action for waste since his future interest is now vested. There are several different kinds of waste under the law. Okay? I'm not going to go through them. If you want to go through them, go to my last previous lecture to get that understanding. So with that, I'm going to stop and unshare my screen and let you know that he who writes your books, he who tells your story, sets the original position from which you attack your argument. Okay? And the arguments that are being used as affirmative defense by people who are it's the English common law of England, and these people who are using English common law of England as affirmative defense do not have the right to do so. Okay? So with that, I'm gonna greet you as I always greeted you, as our ancestors stated we ought to do, i.e. King Edward the Peaceful. That is always in peace.